Hello everyone, guys. I hope I'm audible and visible. Can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me? Very warm welcome to the session. We'll just wait for a couple of moments for everyone to join in and then we start with the session quickly. So, guys, today we're going to talk about most of the concepts we have in MACD. It's going to be an entire revision session where we're going to pick up things from the very basics, from reading comprehension to critical reasoning questions to some vocabulary, and also, if the time permits, we're also going to practice some grammar questions. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started with the basic understanding of reading comprehension passages. So when we talk about RC passages, as I've told you, we have three sections to look at. That is introduction, body of the passage, and the conclusion. Okay, three things we look at: introduction, body of the passage, and conclusion. So when it comes to introduction, it's basically the claim of the author, which is very important. When it comes to body, it is about the reasons, analogies, and the supportive statements which are given, which are supporting the claim. And eventually when it comes to conclusion, it's more about the opinion and the views of the author which are considered. When it comes to the questions, we can look at direct or indirect questions, that is fact based or inference based questions. Okay, so let me take you through a passage. We'll be quickly going through a passage together and try solving it. Let's have a look at the passage together. This is the first paragraph. Let me know once you're done with this. Please let me know if we can move ahead to the next slide. All right, let me take you to the next slide, guys. All right, next slide, guys. Please have a look at this one. Anybody who's just joining us, guys, we are going through some passages for MAHCD and then we will be solving it together. Please make sure that you're reading it with us. If in case you need to move to the first paragraph, please let me know. I'll take you there. Guys, I hope we're done with this particular paragraph. Can we move to the next one? So we have some questions post this. Let's quickly have a look at what we read through, and then we can see, where exactly the questions are coming from. So we know very little about the first true man. Okay, the passage starts with very first true man. We have never seen their pictures in the deepest layer of clay of an ancient soil. We've sometimes found pieces of their bones. Okay, we're talking about, we know very little about the first true man. Like, who was the original man, we do not know. And we've never seen their pictures. We've never seen them in real. In the deepest layer of clay of an ancient soil, we have sometimes found pieces of their bones. All we've seen is their bones, right? They're basically pieces of the bones. That's what we can say. So now it says these lay buried amidst the broken skeletons of other animals that have long since disappeared from the face of the earth. And these pieces of bones were amongst the broken skeletons of other animals that have already disappeared from the face of the earth. Anthropologist. Who is an anthropologist? So, anthropos is human, or it's the mankind. Okay. And logi. Logi refers to study. And then you have IST. IST refers to person who. So basically, person who studies about humans or mankind is an anthropologist. Okay, disappeared from the face of the earth, anthropologists have taken these bones and they have able to reconstruct our earliest ancestors with a fair degree of accuracy. Now they're also referring to that they have been able to, uh, understand these bones. They have been able to reconstruct our earliest ancestors through the study of these human skeletons, human bodies. They've been able to understand that where was the problem, how did they, exist, how were the humans at that time. All of this being studied. Great great grandfather of the human race was a very ugly and unattractive mammal. He was quite small, much smaller than the people of today. Heat of the sun and the biting wind of the cold winter had colored his hair a dark brown. His head and most of his body, his arms, legs too, were covered with long, coarse hair. He had very thin but strong fingers, which made his hands look like those of a monkey. His forehead was low, and his jaw was like the jaw of a wild animal, which uses its teeth both as fork and knife. He wore no clothes. He had seen no fire except the flames of the rumbling volcanoes, which fill the earth with their smoke and their lava. Right? So this paragraph actually talks about the detailing, how it happened. Hello, Mr. Official Rusha. Good to see you here. We are just reading about ancestors of humans, that is, our ancestors, and how our great great grandfather looked like. Okay. So we're talking about the great great grandfather of the human race was a very ugly and unattractive mammal. He was quite small, much smaller than the people of today. Heat of the sun and the biting wind of the winter had colored the skin a dark brown. His head and most of his body, his arms and legs too, were covered with long, coarse hair, had very thin but strong fingers, which made his hands look like that of a monkey. And his forehead was low, and his jaw was like the jaw of a mild animal, which uses its teeth as fork and knife. He wore no clothes, he had seen no fire except the flames of the rumbling volcanoes, which filled the earth with the smoke and the lava. He lived in the damp blackness of vast forests as the pygmies of Africa do this very day. When he felt the pangs of hunger, he ate raw leaves, roots of plants, or took the eggs away from an angry bird and ate them, fed them to his own young. Once in a while, after a long and patient chase, he would catch a sparrow or a small wild dog or perhaps a rabbit. These he would eat raw, for he had never discovered that food tasted better if it was being cooked. Okay, so this entire passage actually talks about how this mammal looked like so far. Like many of the animals who fill the zoo with their strange noises, early man liked to jabber. That is to say, he endlessly repeated the same unintelligible gibberish because it pleased him to hear the sound of his voice. So gibberish is a like sound we are referring to, that he repeated its sound, his own sound he liked to hear. In due time, he learned that he could use this gluttonal noise to warn his fellow beings whenever danger threatened, and he gave certain little shrieks which came to mean there is a tiger or here come five elephants. It's like warning is how he would use it for, right? Then the others grunted something back at him, and their growl meant, I see them, or let us run away and hide. And this was probably the origin of all language. So the entire passage actually talks about how this animal was in a zoo. The ancestor was like a zoo animal himself. how he would use his own language to warn and let be known that there was some kind of danger striking him. Okay, so now what does this paragraph actually talk about? It says that the animal which came to strike him, it looked like similar kind of a thing which happens today as well, but animals speak to them like this. It was basically the great grandfather which tried to warn each other by using his language and telling that, shoo, there's an animal, there's some kind of danger around. Okay, so passage is entirely descriptive. That's something we could see. And then we have, he lived in the damp, where he lived, what he ate. That is what the paragraph talks about. Okay, let's have a look at some questions. I'm going to show you some questions and we're going to solve them together, guys. Please have a look at the first question. Guys, please answer in the chat box. What is your understanding? Purpose of the author in the passage: to provide one possible theory for the origin of language, to describe the general appearance and some of the behavioral traits of early man, to compare early man with modern day pygmies, to discuss the views of some anthropologists with regards to the origin of early man, or to discuss the food habits of early man. What exactly is it and why? So, yes, primary purpose of the author is provide one possible theory of the origin of language. Are we giving one possible theory? Describe the general appearance, behavioral traits of early man, compare early man with modern man, discuss his views of anthropologists with regards to the origin of early man, discuss food habits. It's just not food habits, but basically what anthropologists think about it. Okay, which of the following assertion is best supported from the information in the passage? Quickly have a look at the question, then we discuss. Guys, are we able to determine the answer to this question? Which of the following assertion is best supported from the information in the passage? Some races of early man had their complexion and blonde hair. Okay, this is what one of the paragraphs says. The next one option says early man had a lot of similarities with apes. So early man had similarities with apes. Does it give us a reason that we are supporting the information in the passage? No. C says early man made use of fire to cook food, though he ate most of his food raw. Early man is not the only species from his time that has disappeared completely from the earth, or pieces of the bones of early man have been found in the molten earth's crust. So, best supported from the information is option E. That's the correct answer choice. Let's have a look at the third question now. According to the information in the passage, which of the following could be the most possible reason for the origin of the language? So, giving you 30 seconds, quickly go through it and then we discuss it. All right, guys, let's discuss this. According to the information of the passage, which of the following could be the one possible reason for the origin of language? Desire to warn others of impending danger. Yes, this is what the option seems to be good one. Desire to share one's joys and sorrows. Desire to have better camaraderie with other members of the species. Desire to collaborate in order to hunt animals more efficiently. Or understand one's surroundings better. So, of course, not these options, but it has to be option number A. Desire to warn others of coming up dangers. Okay, so answer is A alpha for this particular question. That's the correct answer. Okay, now let's have a look at another passage. Please have a look at this one. It's going to be a little tougher than what we did so far. Guys, can we move ahead to the next paragraph? So this is like two people's views being compared in the entire passage. Okay, just have a look at it, and then we move to another paragraph, and then we discuss it all. Okay, next slide. So we have questions posted. So let's quickly go through what the first two paragraphs have to say, and then we'll analyze the entire passage together. It is Frazier and Mosler assert that medical research could be improved by a move toward larger, simpler clinical trials of medical treatments. So if we go with larger, simpler clinical trials of medical treatments, basically the medical research process can be improved. Currently, researchers collect far more background information on patients than is strictly required for their trials. Right? So they're collecting far more background information on patients than is strictly required. What is required for the patients, they're collecting more information than that. Substantially more than hospitals collect, thereby escalating costs of data collection, storage, and analysis. Although limiting information collection could increase the risk that researchers will overlook facts relevant to a study, Frazier and Mosler contend that such risk never entirely eliminable, like it can never be eliminated entirely from research and would still be small in most studies. So only in research on entirely new treatments are new and unexpected variables likely to arise. So only in research on new treatments. Whenever there's a new treatment, we'll find that there are new variables like COVID. It was a different virus altogether and we didn't have a vaccine for it. So that was invented. So Fraser and Mosler proposed that not only are the researchers limit data collection on individual patients, but also that researchers enroll more patients in clinical trials, thereby obtaining a more representative sample of the total population with these diseases under study. Often researchers restrict study participation to patients who have no ailments besides these being studied. A treatment judged successfully under these ideal conditions can then be evaluated under normal conditions. Broadening the range of trial participants, Frenzier and Mosler suggest, would enable researchers to evaluate a treatment's efficacy for diverse patients under various conditions and to evaluate its effectiveness for different patients' subgroups. For example, the value of a treatment for a progressive disease may vary according to a patient's stage of disease. How a person's disease is progressing. Accordingly, we can test that at what stage and how the patient can be tested. Patients' ages may also affect a treatment's efficacy. How efficient is a treatment gonna be? That might also be impacted by the patient's age. At what age group are we treating the patient? Okay, let me just plug in my laptop. It seems to be dying out of battery. So this is also one of the factors at which we can look at for the patients, to be treated. Let's have a look at the questions now. The passage is primarily concerned with what? Identifying two practices in medical research that may affect the accuracy of clinical trials, describing aspects of medical research that tend to drive up the cost, evaluating an analysis of certain shortcomings of current medical research practices, describing proposed changes to the ways in which clinical trials are conducted, or explaining. So, all these options, if you look at the first word, you'd be able to identify what is the correct answer. Are we talking about two different practices in medical research that may impact the accuracy of clinical trials, that how the trials are being done, how accurate are they? Or are we trying to describe aspects of medical research that tend to drive up cost? जिसकी वजह से cost बढ़ सकता है. Evaluating an analysis of certain shortcomings of current medical research practices, describing proposed changes to the ways in which clinical trials are conducted, or explaining how medical research have traditionally conducted clinical trials and how much trials are likely to perform. So please answer in the chat box, guys. What do you think is the correct answer? Then we discuss it. I'm not answering right away. I want you guys to help me out with the answer first. So here we are trying to analyze the shortcomings of current medical research practices. It says not only the researchers limit data collection on individual patients, but also the researchers enroll more patients in clinical trials, obtaining a more representative sample. But often researchers restrict study participation to patients who have no ailments, right? And then they show how successful the judgment has been. So is it a good way to practice? Not really. So describing proposed changes to ways in which clinical trials can be conducted, explaining how medical research have traditionally conducted clinical trials and how such trials are likely to impact. So E is the correct answer choice. Let's have a look at this one. Often researchers restrict study participants to patients who have no ailments. That's what we just read here. This is the sentence. Okay, so this is a question. First you have a look at the question, then I'll show you the paragraph again. Please let me know if you want to answer. Shall we discuss the question? Okay, so the sentence again comes from the last paragraph, the second paragraph, as I told you. First of all, the question says which of the following can be inferred from the passage about a study of the category of patients referred to in lines 2022. Often researchers restrict study participation to patients who have no ailments besides those being studied. Okay. So they are not studying those patients who are actually suffering from a problem, but the ones who have no ailments. That's what it says. That often researchers restrict study participation to patients who have no ailments. जिनको कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है उनको स्टडी करने का क्या मतलब है ठीक है उनको स्टडी करने से क्या होगा सो अगर इफ आई लुक एट दिस नाउ so what is it? What can be inferred? The first thing is what can be inferred. Its findings might have limited applicability, would be prohibitively expensive in its attempt to create ideal conditions, be the best way to sample the total population of potential patients. It would allow researchers to limit information collection without increasing the risk that important variables could be overlooked. And its findings would be more accurate if it concerned treatments for a progressive disease than it is concerned treatments of a non-progressive disease. Right? So what are we trying to infer? Its findings might have limited applicability or it would be prohibitively expensive in its attempt. We don't know if it's going to be expensive. Best way to sample the total population of no. It would allow researchers to limit foundation collection without increasing the risk that important variables may be overlooked. Yes. We might not have those variables, coming into place, which are actually rather more important. And then we have question number 3, which says it can be inferred from the passage that a study limited to patients like those mentioned in lines 2022. Often researchers restrict study participation to patients who have no ailments besides those being studied, would have following advantage over the kind of a study proposed by Fraser and what benefits it might have. Okay, so it could be identify subgroups of patients with secondary conditions, enable researchers to assess the value of an experimental treatment, or would yield more data and its findings would be more accurate or could be cost less in long term. So cost again is not the point of discussion. Limit the number of variable researchers would need to consider when evaluating the treatment under study. So C could be there, D could be there. But better choice is D. Okay, now we have another important passage. We can maybe go through this one as well. And then we move to some good, this is passage number 3, by the way. We'll move to some good CR questions and also some vocabulary questions. Please have a look at this one. Can we move to the next slide, guys? Let's check this one. Okay, moving ahead. All right, guys, next slide. Have a look at this and then we discuss. Okay, next part to it. Okay, next paragraph. Okay, next paragraph. This is more of a question. So let's quickly discuss what's there in the passage, long passage we had. The thing is, the career of trumpeter Miles Davis was one of the most astonishingly productive that jazz music has ever seen. Okay, so we're talking about the trumpeter Miles Davis, and his career was astonishingly productive that jazz music might have ever seen. Yet his genius has never received its due. The impatience and artistic restlessness that characterized his work spawned one stylistic turn after another and made Davis anathema to many critics who deplored his abandonment first of bebop and then of cool acoustic jazz forever more innovative sounds. Okay. Having begun his career studying bebop, it's like bebo. Okay. Davis pulled the first of many stylistic surprises when in 1948 he became a member of impromptu musical think tank that gathered in few New York City apartment. The work of this group not only slowed down tempos and featured ensemble playing as much as ever more than solos in direct reaction to bebop, it also became the seedbed of the West Coast cool jazz style. So, first of all, I'd like to know what is your understanding till here and what do you get about Davis? Uh, what does the first paragraph talk about? Why are we talking about the bebop and rocksteady here? What reference do you think is it getting us to history when it talks about 1948? Okay, so bop you might have heard of. Like bebop is basically the bop. Uh, you know, it's tough to find out the pointer. Okay, so it's referring to the bop, right? So this is a style of jazz music. Okay, that emerged in the early 1940s, which was characterized by fast tempos, complex chord progressions, and a focus on individual virtuosity and improvisation. So, work of this group not only showed the down tempos, but also solos in direct reaction. Okay, Um, direct reaction to bebop it also became the seedbed for the West Coast school jazz style. In what would become a characteristic zigzag, Davis didn't follow up on these innovations himself. Instead, in the late 1950s, he formed a new band that broke free from jazz restrictive pattern of chord changes. Soloists could determine the shapes of their melodies without referring back to the same unvarying repetition of chords. In this period, Davis attempted to join jazz phrasings, harmonies, and tonal qualities with a unified and integrated sound similar to that of a classical orchestral piece. In his recordings, the rhythms, no matter how jazz like, are always understated and the instrumental voicing seems muted. Davis' recordings from the late 1960s signal that once again his direction was changing. He was moving to another music type. On Files Day Kilimanjaro, Davis requests that keyboardist Herbie Hancock play electric rather than acoustic caused consternation among jazz purists of the time. Okay, and heavily electronic instrumentation, a loose improvisational attack, and growing use of studio editing to create jagged soundscapes. By 69, Davis' typical studio procedure was to have musicians improvise from a base script of material, then to build finished pieces out of tape like a movie director. Rock groups that pioneered the process to jazz lovers raised on the ideal of live improvisation. That approach was a violation of the premise that recordings should simply document the musician's thought processes in real time. Davis again became the target of fierce polemics by purist jazz critics who have continued to belittle his contributions to jazz. So, what probably underlines the intensity of the reactions against Davis is to fear of the broadening of possibilities that he exemplified. उसने जो सोचा उससे कहीं ज्यादा exemplified थी ये. And then it says, but because his career endured, उसके career ने काफी suffer किया, right? Because he didn't die young or record only sporadically, and because he refused to dwell in whatever niche he had previously carved out, Critics find it difficult to definitely rank Davis in the aesthetic hierarchy to which they cling. So they don't consider him as a benchmark, they consider him much better than that. Which of the following best states the main point of the passage? Can you help us in figuring out what is the main point of the passage, guys? What are we trying to figure out in the passage? Because the career of Miles Davis was characterized by frequent shifts in styles, he never fulfilled his musical potential. Because the career of Miles Davis did not fit neatly into their preconceptions about the life and music of jazz, jazz critics have accorded him the appreciation deserves. Career of Miles Davis was unusually long and unproductive. Unproductive, he never received the popular acclaim generally received by artists. More project life histories. Okay, and then it says long and productive career of Miles Davis spawned most of the major stylistic changes affecting 20th century jazz, or versatility and openness have inspired the admiration of the most jazz critics, right? So it should be C. Calcutta. According to the passage to the following, true of the West Coast, cool jazz style. Okay. It was popularized by Miles Davis, was characterized by unified and integrated sound, played primarily by large ensembles, introduced a wide variety of chord change patterns, or it grew out of innovations developed in New York City. Okay, so which of the following West Coast cool jazz style? It was popularized by Miles Davis, unified and integrated sound, played primarily by large ensembles, introduced a wide variety of chord change patterns. So it should be D Delhi. Okay. Let's move to another question set. I really had a big list of questions for you guys, but then I think it would be good if we move to some good questions, guys. So you got to figure out the vocab now. Okay. You need to figure out the synonym of the word pernicious. What is pernicious? Is it harmful, healthy, helpful, hesitant, or hesitant? Hesitant as in somebody who is not, very easy to connect with, a little not so easy to talk to, right? Who generally doesn't give answers directly or participate. So, what is pernicious? The drugs he took to cure XYZ disease rather had a pernicious impact on the person. So, it should be harmful. Okay. Obfuscate. What is obfuscate? Obfuscate? Clarify, confuse, brighten, or accelerate. So in the meetings, you need to obfuscate the deadlines. You need to clearly mention the deadlines, right? And people are generally confused. So confused is the right answer. Sagacious. Sagacious matlab sage like. It's sage like, very wise. Okay, so wisdom. B Bombay is the correct answer. Cacophony. Cacophony is basically, we have cacophony, we have calligraphy, okay, and we have cacography. So this is bad handwriting, and this is good handwriting, right? So caco is basically noise or bad. So melody, dissonance, silence, harmony. All of these are good options. Answer is dissonance for this. What is lethargic? Being very, very sluggish, very lazy. Okay, that is lethargic. Mellifluous. Mellifluous is sweet sounding. Some of the singers you might have heard, very mellifluous to hear, listen to, very sweet sounding. What is acrimonious? It is caustic, bitter, बहुत ही कड़वा. Okay, quixotic. It's very idealistic, not realistic but idealistic. Ubiquitous, everywhere. God is ubiquitous. God is everywhere, omnipresent. Insipid. What is insipid? Very bland, tasteless. Okay. Tasteless or bland is insipid. That's how we're supposed to solve these questions. Let's have a look at some CR questions, guys. Seriously weakens the author's ascension that more than twice as many citizens are now enjoying the arts. So, what are we looking at? The question says in 1985, the city's Fine Arts Museum sold 30,000 single entry tickets. Okay, 30,000 single entry tickets. In 1986, the city's Folk Arts and Interior Design Museum. So, they're talking about two things. Initially, it was just Fine Arts Museum. Now we have Folk Arts and also Interior Design Museum. Okay, these three of them are selling 80,000 tickets. So this is like 1 year back. This was the situation when we had only Fine Arts Museum. Okay. Now we have Fine Arts Museum. Along with that, we have two more museums. This is 1 year later. Okay. So these three museums together sold 80,000 such tickets that year. These museums were worth the cost since more than twice as many citizens are now enjoying the arts. So what is the contention? Ki more than twice the citizens are visiting the museum. But on the hindsight, what we have to prove is seriously weaken the author's ascension that more than twice as many citizens are now enjoying the arts. So हम इसको weaken करना है. So if I look at E, fewer museum entry tickets were sold in 1986 than the museum had hoped to sell. नंबर ऑफ टिकट्स कम नहीं हो सकते, नंबर ऑफ टिकट शायद उतने ही रहे होंगे बट या उससे ज्यादा ही हुए, बट नए लोग आए ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है. तो पॉइंट इज द सिटीज फाइन डिड नॉट एक्सपीरियंस अ डिक्रीज. Two new museums became better. Cost of building the museums will not be. Most visitors to one museum also visit the other two. The point is that same people who are visiting this are also viewing the other two, as also visiting the other two. That's why the answer should be A as a correct option rather than going for these options. So guys, we had a look at a lot of type of questions. We did some CR questions, we did some vocabulary questions, and also good number of passages. So I would want that this session was helpful to you. And if you still have any doubts, guys, we can connect very soon, maybe tomorrow or whenever we have the next session. Right? I would like to wish you good luck for your exams. In case you would have any doubts, please put them in the chat box so that we can address them as in whenever you guys come up, next, and we can have it in a session. Thank you so much and a very best of luck for your exam. If in case you still have doubts, feel free to answer the comment box, chat it down in the comment box, and we'll definitely address them as soon as possible. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great, great, great night. Thank you.